Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday. I am fortunate enough to be off on this admittedly chilly day. I hope everybody's happy, healthy, safe. I've got a couple things lined up for you today. We looked into Ghostwire Tokyo yesterday, or actually much earlier this morning. Um, yeah, I'm gonna dispense with the no. Let's not. Let's not be. Let's not be lazy. So today, yeah, keep that. I could have kept that. Let's see. Let's go to the because we don't need that anymore. So today, yeah, okay. And let's see, what else do we have here? Okay. Um, okay. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to check out a few things that I have found along the way. Um, um, and we're going to check out a. It's not new, but it's a game that I thought would be interesting to check out, called Ghost Song. So, um, hope everybody's doing okay. Nothing interesting to report over the last few hours. I've had my coffee. Mm-hmm. Gotten some food a little while ago. So if you need to get snacks and everything, go ahead and do that. Okay, I can. That's good for y'all. Something to drink, something to eat, something to smoke on. We'll be observing tradition here in a minute. Um, Ghostwire Tokyo is okay. I'm gonna have to get. I'm gonna have to play a little bit more. It just feels weird. Um, I don't know what it is. It feels a little dated. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Gary, if you, and I never even played this game very much, but was it Yakuza? Kind of like it kind of looks like that in a way, and I guess it reminds me because it's all in. Maybe it's just because it's all in Japanese, and it just has inherently a different feel um, than traditional uh, uh, Western placed game. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't think that's it very much it either because I've played plenty of games that are like non-English or not set here. It's just it's something just feels a little weird about the game. I don't know. I'll have to play it more. Um, where did the music go? So yeah, I'm just gonna have to play a little bit more of it. We'll see what's up. Yeah, so let's observe tradition before we jump into the thick of things. Tonight's activities are up on the board. This song also reminds me of another song. That part just just reminds me of another song. Yeah, we'll try to stay wild, and then the wind will blow. That song. That's what that little part just reminds me of that song. And probably a few other things. We'll try to stay wild, and when the wind blows me. We hear this one a lot. It's nice to be with you guys today. If you ever have a chance to work a 4-3 schedule, it's the healthier way to go. Nice. All right. Now that a tradition has been observed, today we'll be checking out all right. This one's brain food, and a little bit of culture food too. So let's check it out.
Have you ever wondered why comics used to look like this, with panel after panel filled with words, and now they look like this, where artists use a series of images and dialogue to create a sense of motion? Well, this 8-page comic from 1955 is the key to that evolution. So why did the artist who created it quit comics entirely just a few years after it was published and spend the rest of his life as a high school teacher? Well, I wanted to find out. And as I researched this story, what I found was more interesting and more tragic than I could have expected. So stick around as we break down what makes this comic so special. The first thing you need to know about Bernard Krigstein is that he did not want to draw comics. Bernard Krigstein was an artist with a capital A. He went to art school and his aspiration was to be a painter. But painting wasn't paying the bills, so he took up illustration and comic work to make ends meet. When his wife became sick after the birth of their first child, he went into comics full time. Krigstein is embarrassed to be working in comics. They may have paid better than illustration or painting, but it was not a respectable field in the 1940s. He even refuses to sign the work he's doing, or signs it B.B. Krigg after his old army nickname, Ballbuster. At this point, he's working in a variety of genres for a variety of publishers, including DC and Atlas, which would later become Marvel Comics. His boss at Atlas is a guy named Stan Lee. Just to give you an idea of what Krigstein's personality is like, I want to read this quote of what he had to say about Stan Lee. I was delighted to learn that Lee had attained the status of an authority in the comics field. 20 years of unrelenting effort to suppress the artistic, encourage miserable taste, flood the field with degraded imitations and polluted non-stories, treating artists and writers like cattle, and failure on his part to make an independent success as a cartoonist have certainly qualified him for this respected position. But around this time, something starts to change in Krigstein. He discovers artists like Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, Mort Meskin, guys who are taking comics art and elevating it to the level of fine art. And Krigstein realizes he can do this too. He becomes enamored with the idea of transforming comics from a disreputable medium to something that could maybe be shown in a gallery that deserved serious critical attention. At this time, he starts signing his art, using the stylized B. Krigstein signature that he previously reserved only for his fine art paintings. And then his old rotary phone rings, and he gets the call that will change his life. A call from EC Comics. EC Comics was founded by notable comics editor Max Gaines, and their big books were things like Picture Stories from the Bible and Picture Stories from American History. But if you know EC, that's probably not why you know them, because old Max dies in a boating accident and his 25-year-old son William takes over the business. Little Bill does what any of us would do, which is cancel all the Bible crap and start publishing the sickest, the most twisted comics that have ever hit the stands. Comics with titles like Tales from the Crypt, The Haunt of Fear, The Vault of Horror. They also publish Mad Magazine, which I don't get.
This was a very volatile time in comic books. From here until the Comics Code came out. These comics, the Comics Code, which would come, is a direct result of the adult content that they showed in these types of comic books. I mean, again, it's always fucking stupid ass adults fucking trying to tell people and tell kids what is good and good isn't good for them, when they just fucking, the only problem that they have with it is the fact that they don't find it tasteful or to their liking, or it personally offends them. You know, don't look at it. Don't look at it, don't read it, don't watch it, don't fucking eat it. If it offends you, get away from it. But don't fucking ruin everyone else's fucking fun time just because you have some fucking gripe. It's fucking bullshit.
Guy with the big head kind of terrifies me, so it fits. EC was like the punk rock of comics. And not only does Bill Gaines care about how twisted the comics are, he cares about the quality. He sets out on a mission to hire the best, the brightest, the most talented artists working in the field, and encourages each of them to develop their own personal style. One of his first calls is to Kriegstein. What does Kriegstein say? No way, it doesn't pay enough, I'm sticking with the stuff I hate. But after seeing the work that EC's putting out, a few years later he wins. Now, EC's not without their flaws. They're operating at an insane pace. Al Feldstein, their main editor, was editing 11 of their titles at one point. To save time, the writers would write the stories directly on the page, leaving blank spots where the artists would fill in the panels. So while the art that they were getting was really good, this idea of visual storytelling wasn't really happening. Now, that didn't work for old Ballbuster. So what he started to do was actually subdividing those panels he was given into smaller, slimmer panels so he could actually start telling stories the way he wanted to tell them. And as you watch his evolution as an artist, you can see him subdividing more and more. You can almost feel him trying to break out of the constraints he's been given to create something artistic, something meaningful in the realm of comic storytelling. But all of this is just leading up to his masterpiece. Now, if the title Master Race didn't give it away, this is a story that deals directly with the Holocaust. That was not a common subject in media in 1953. In fact, the groundbreaking documentary Night and Fog would not be released until 1956. It's also worth mentioning that Kriegstein, Feldstein, and many of the other individuals working in comics at this time were Jewish. When Kriegstein gets the script for Master Race from Feldstein, he describes it as the most explosive story I've ever come across. He begs EC to let him expand the story to 12 pages from his usual 6, compromise at 12 pages. As you read Master Race today, you get the feeling that Kriegstein has created something special. On the original silver print, you can see where Kriegstein had taken a razor blade to the words as they had been laid out to rearrange them to let him tell the story the way he wanted to tell it. He spent a month on it, double his allotted 2 weeks, and that missed deadline would have tragic consequences for Kriegstein. But we'll get to that. First, let's take a look at the comic itself. The story begins with a man, Karl Reisman, riding the subway, and he's haunted by memories of wartime Germany. He's growing uncomfortable with all the people in the city watching him. Then a man in black gets on the subway who conjures up very specific memories of Hitler and the atrocities committed in the 30s. So far, the story is presented in your standard EC layout, but as we see these memories, the art goes more and more grotesque, and it's this really unflinching portrayal of medical experiments and mass graves. Again, topics not very common in comics at the time. And then we're back on the subway, and now the man in black turns. He recognizes Karl, and it's in this moment the first subdivision. And now things are going crazy. The panels divide further and further as Karl turns and flees the man. The pace is picking up, and on the final panel of this page, it's revealed that Karl wasn't a survivor of the Holocaust at all. He was the commander of the concentration camp. After that reveal, you turn the page, and you're faced with the most shocking thing. Complete silence. We see Carl slip and fall from the subway platform, and that fall is split over 5 panels, and it becomes intercut with the train approaching, Carl falling, the train growing closer, and finally, as he's about to go under the wheels, we see this masterpiece of a panel, and we see a multitude of faces rushing by. The sense of speed he creates is incredible. Kriegstein's taken that one moment in the story that easily could have been one panel with narration, and stretched it out over 11 panels, and used the pacing of those panels to heighten the emotion of the moment. But remember that missed deadline? Well, because of that, Master Race would remain unpublished for months, sitting on the desks at EC. And in the intervening period, the Comics Code Authority was created. Now, I have to do a whole video on the Comics Code Authority, but the short version is that the psychiatrist Frederick Wertham published a book about how comics were corrupting children. The government got involved, and so the big comic publishers got together to create content guidelines that all publishers would have to abide by. Now, Bill Gaines felt like EC was specifically targeted by this code. I tend to agree with him because one of the rules is that no comic can contain the word horror or terror in the title. So in 1954, EC cancels almost their entire line of comics and relaunches milder, toned-down versions of the same books. When they finally publish Master Race, it's in one of these toned-down comics called Impact, which didn't have much impact and would be canceled entirely after only 5 issues. And unfortunately, it means not nearly as many people saw Master Race as could have had it been published months earlier before the CCA. The EC death spiral had begun. They cancel all their books besides Mad, and their artists go their separate ways. Kriegstein is back to freelancing again, working for a variety of publishers, but page rates have dropped across the industry as the popularity of comics declined after the CCA debacle. He ends up working once more for his old pal Stan Lee. And after a fight with Stan Lee, who insisted on adding words to a panel that Kriegstein was adamant remained silent, he quits the industry entirely. For a while, he tries to get back in illustration. He takes his old comic art, he whites out the balloons on it because he's so embarrassed to be known as a comic artist, but he doesn't get enough jobs in illustration to pay the bills, and ultimately takes a job as a high school teacher where he'll spend the next 20 years of his career. And I'm haunted by this quote of his that he gave in an interview years later. If only they would have let me continue on this track, where I could have expanded the material as I did in Master Race. In all these years, frankly, I've been nurturing that frustration, this feeling that something tremendous could have been done if only they'd let me do it. He would never draw another comic again. When his high school students would ask him about his history in comic books, he'd dismissively say, "Oh, that was years ago." But the story doesn't end there, because a few years later, people start to take notice of what Kriegstein had done. Fanzines are created celebrating EC Comics. One super nerd spends a whole issue dissecting Master Race and all of the formal innovations Kriegstein pioneered in it. This next generation of comics artists had grown up on Kriegstein's work. Frank Miller, one of the most innovative artists of this period, frequently cites Kriegstein as an influence. He specifically talks about Master Race in relation to his own retelling of Batman's origin story in The Dark Knight Returns. Comics become more of a visual medium during this period directly because of Kriegstein's influence. And that EC super nerd who spent a whole issue writing about Kriegstein, his name was Art Spiegelman. If the name Art Spiegelman sounds familiar, it's because he's the author of Mouse. Mouse has arguably done more than any other comic before or since in legitimizing comics as an art form. More academic work has been written about Mouse than any other comic book. It would go on to win the Pulitzer Prize, and a year after Kriegstein's death, in 1991, the Museum of Modern Art stages an exhibition dedicated to Mouse, cementing comics as fine art. So while Kriegstein never got to participate in the legitimization of comics as fine art, his followers, because of his influence, did. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah. I had never heard of the artist that was talked about here before. It's a shame, but that happens to a lot of really talented people that have industry changing ideas, and like things just don't go the way they should, and they never touch the medium again. But it's really cool to see where the evolution in comic books came from, because there is a distinct difference between the older style comic books and the modern style of comic books, where you actually have a visual storytelling that Bethesda, the game company, actually has a habit of doing sometimes to great effect. Yeah. Okay. So next up on the agenda is hold on. Let me go ahead and he is fairly well spoken, and I have to check out what he. I'll see what else he has to offer. But now we shall go. So East Side Show SCP. Like he's not the first like he's the first YouTuber that I came into contact with that specifically featured content from the SCP universe. I've actually found the SCP wiki way before I ever heard about him. But he is a very, very good content creator for the SCP catalog, and he has so much content. So please give him a like, subscribe, and all the other good stuff, because he's worth it. He is. This one just came out today, so I have the opportunity to be early on the bandwagon. So let's check it out. This is the Rainbow Serpent Part 1, SCP-6004. Shout out to Eastside Steve, man. Like, for real. You've provided so much fucking content for me over the many years that you've been doing your thing. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
SMTS Site 40. Director, Alan Tibbles. Research Head, Kate Lloyd. Assigned Task Force, MTF Omicron 40.
This is a little bit of a new format, at least for me. That's a new graphic. Yeah.
Level 4/6004 classified. Item number SCP-6004. Object class uncontainable. Tiamat. Special containment procedures. Despite the best efforts of the Foundation, SCP-6004 remained uncontainable until such a time that drastically more powerful containment measures are made available, or SCP-6004 returns to an inactive state of its own accord. As such, current containment procedures revolve around the preparation for such a time, and minimizing collateral damage caused by its current state. SCP-6004 is to be constantly monitored via remaining functional satellite imagery, with satellite arrays to be appropriated from world governments if necessary. Constant reports of its location, direction, speed, and activities are to be provided at all times to better aid global task forces in the evacuation of populations from likely attack sites and impact zones. Due to the volume of casualties, civilians with better chances are prioritized at the discretion of task force members on the ground. Aid shelters and temporary housing are to be provided in rural, remote, and off-the-grid areas, including small towns, Foundation containment sites, and settlements previously attacked by SCP-6004. To avoid drawing the attention of SCP-6004, all Foundation sites are to minimize pollution and carbon emissions as best as possible, with the aim of switching to solar, geothermal, or nuclear power as soon as is feasible. Research into the most effective anomalous containment measures and weaponry is to be carried out on Foundation and Global Occult Coalition sites globally, with both organizations to collaborate on these projects. Amnestic production has been increased by 230%.
So, if you, in case you anyone weren't familiar, there are several organizations that work behind the scenes with what's known as the Foundation to do what the Foundation defines as secure, contain, protect. They are the most The Foundation is the most prolific. Um, Not always the most successful, nor the necessarily the best option um, in this universe, but they are one of the biggest and most well-funded, and like the global occult coalition, the GOC. Yeah, GOC. They're a distant second. Like I mean, they've got some fucking some oomph, but not like what is it, the Serpent's Hand or something? Is it like there are other groups out there that are much more well informed and better equipped, but they are better. They are better than the I think the FBI has a task force that deals with phenomena like this, and they're woefully under funded and under informed. But there's a lot of stories in the SCP universe, and I urge you to check them out. They're really good.
In order to return the world unawareness of the veil, following SCP-6004's successful containment. Description: SCP-6004 is a massive serpentine entity of variable size, measuring between 0.2 and 1900 kilometers in length, with mass proportional to its length. While its physiology varies from resembling various Australian ophidians, its coloration has consistently been primarily black, with dull prismatic stripes running vertically down its length, with a pale underbelly. SCP-6004 possesses a pair of horns and a larger array of teeth, more than what would be expected or biologically possible in non-anomalous ophidians. Horns featured thousands of engraved depictions of wildlife. SCP-6004 is observed to move at abnormally fast speeds, often in excess of 1,200 kilometers per hour on land, and 2,800 kilometers per hour underwater. This movement often creates large rifts in the terrain, and tsunamis in the water, along with sonic concussions both in and out of the water. SCP-6004 exhibits strength and durability, far beyond what its proportions would suggest, having bite force strong enough to crush key units, destroy mountains, and throw itself into the upper troposphere. It is able to fly at this altitude in a fashion similar to swimming.
Oh, that's cool.
By maintaining consciousness, SCP-6004 is able to alter weather patterns and atmospheric conditions on a global scale at will, primarily by exerting a mild cooling effect on the Earth's average temperature by 2 degrees Celsius. This effect varies in intensity and effect locally, with the most significant changes being intensified snowfall in glacial areas and poles, increased rainfall in arid areas, and severe thunderstorms globally. The most directly threatening use of SCP-6004's ability to control weather conditions is when directly within its line of sight, often in response to outside stimulus or its theoretical emotional state. This most commonly takes the form of severe thunderstorms, hurricane generation, torrential rain, and the generation of extremely large waves. It uses its ability
So give that motherfucker some coffee.
as a form of offense in an area,
Or a cigarette.
typically striking cities, mines, and power plants with severe weather events before striking physically. Rain generated in this form has been observed to spontaneously generate plant life within its area of effect.
Oh, that's cool.
This flora has been observed to grow extremely rapidly, and is at times hostile to human life. SCP-6004 possesses several powerful anomalous qualities regarding itself. Thaumaturgical scans have shown that SCP-6004 possesses a form of selective tangibility, which has been observed at times of attack. It has been observed that SCP-6004 can cause damage selectively, seemingly choosing which structures are destroyed or left unharmed during a physical assault. It often uses this ability when swallowing organic materials, primarily animals, while avoiding swallowing earth or buildings. SCP-6004 is known to consume living human persons when besieging populated areas. and is often observed regurgitating various fauna local to the immediate area. Addendum 6004-1. Discovery and early history of SCP-6004. Discovery and early investigation into SCP-6004. Statement from Site Director Alan Tibbles. Prior to the discovery of SCP-6004 in the March of 2020, there was much discussion within the Foundation regarding how much humanitarian aid to provide towards fighting the 2019 to 2020 Australian bushfires. We, of course, knew they were not our problem to deal with, being the result of non-anomalous climate change and poor government action. But it is human nature to want to help one another. And in the case of those of us at Australian site, our homelands.
Yep.
Still, despite my own feelings towards the matter, we at Site 40 were spread too thin to offer any more than nominal support to firefighters and rescue groups, particularly with the growing concern that we had towards the unusual seismic activity being felt around the Australian continent. We knew it was anomalous. Emails and communication were sent back and forth discussing what to do. Ultimately, survey teams were dispatched to find their source. But due to the fires, these efforts
That's
were less than
creepy and
successful.
eerily beautiful, but
We decided to wait
terrifying.
until things calmed down before trying again. We all know now what a mistake that was. The lesson to be learned here is simple. We need to stop working around the poor decisions made by the non-anomalous world and act more directly. Had we done that, we wouldn't be in the mess we now find ourselves. Discovery of SCP-6004.
There's a lesson in that. Sometimes, just because it's not your problem doesn't mean it won't become your problem.
Beginning in December 1988, unusual seismic activity began to be detected throughout mainland Australia, and in particular around the eastern coast of New South Wales. Initially, this was not believed to be anomalous and was ignored. However, over the following years, this seismic activity grew in intensity and frequency, until finally in 2019, it was decided that investigators would be dispatched from Site 40 to investigate. Investigations showed that the source of this seismic activity was located within Wollemi National Park, an area comprised of 501,000.
Wait, where's Wollemi National Park? This map is useless. Alright.
703 hectares of wilderness located between the Blue Mountains. Investigations were halted before more precise measurements could be taken by the 2019 to 2020
Nothing on that
bushfire
map.
season, when
Okay.
intense wildfires affected the area in question, and it was decided that investigation would resume upon the fires being put under control.
Hey viewer, how you doing tonight?
While waiting for conditions to improve, drastically more intense seismic activity was detected from within the area, culminating on the February 10th, 2020, when firefighter Mark Delaney was reported to have disobeyed orders while attempting the rescue of a panicked civilian who had fled into dangerous terrain within Wollemi National Park. The subsequent events led to SCP-6004 emerging from a subterranean cavern and departing the area. Foundation investigation into this event uncovered the remains of Mr. Delaney, pinned beneath a large granite boulder, located in close proximity.
There's a few other very giant anomalous entities in the SCP universe. Off the top of my head, there's one it's an underwater type creature. I think it's some sort of crustacean or whatever, but it has like a land mass on its back. So when it moves, it's a bad thing, or at least people can feel it. But remember when the bloop sound came out, and I think this was before they kind of determined that it was an ice quake, underwater ice quake or whatever. But they actually worked the bloop sound into the story of this SCP. There's also two ginormous SCPs that are fighting in one of the world's oceans. That are sort of like a yin and yang type thing. That it's very weird. There's also this deer that can transmute things and turn them into different elements and shit, and it's got a halo and giant spheres behind it. Sort of looks like a deer with Naruto's fucking spheres behind him. There's actually quite a few. There's another entity. It's actually an angel with a flaming sword that's standing in front of the gates to the Garden of Eden, and that's pretty fucking cool. And there are more than a few stories having to do with that one. There's apparently Cain and Abel are still walking around and in well, I wouldn't say custody, but they work with the SCP in some form or fashion sometimes. There's so much out there in the SCP universe. And if you want kaiju and cryptids and all that stuff, it's all there. All of it. It's great. Kind of wish they'd make a movie or like a Netflix series or like an off-brand series or like a YouTube series where it's like the SCP universe. That would be cool.
To the ruined entrance to a large subterranean cabin, surrounded by evidence of rock slides and an emergence event. The examination of Mr. Delaney's remains revealed a portable video camera worn on his helmet and captured the events following his attempted rescue of the as-yet unknown civilian, leading up to the emergence of SCP-6004. A transcript of the recovered footage follows. Footage begins showing Mark Delaney, among other firefighters, standing among several parked fire trucks. Firefighters can be seen attempting to suppress intense fire fronts with high-pressure hoses, and visibility is very poor due to smoke and reflected light from intense flames. Mr. Delaney is requesting support from another firefighter and retrieving a ladder from a fire truck, when an unidentified woman is seen running towards the flames. "Stop right there!" The woman appears unable to hear Mr. Delaney, and is in a highly panicked state. She continues into the woodland at speed, with Mr. Delaney giving chase. Another firefighter can faintly be heard calling for him to stop. "Jamie?"
If you're watching Eastside Steve, I wouldn't mind doing some voice lines for you. I've got a few things that I can do. I'm not terrible with voices.
"Jamie, come back!" "Oi, no, it's too hot."
Oi, no, it's too hot!
As Mr. Delaney enters the woodland. The path appears wide, but is surrounded by intense flames. All that can be heard is the roar of the flames. Mr. Delaney continues to chase after the woman, occasionally swearing. The camera jolts violently for 8 seconds, causing Mr. Delaney to fall. He returns to his feet and resumes running. "Fuck me, it's getting worse. Shit, lady, come back." Mr. Delaney occasionally loses sight of the woman, running for an additional 83 seconds before entering a clearing on the edge of a ravine. Past the ravine, a mass of flaming wilderness can be seen. The unidentified woman can be seen cowering at the edge of the ravine. "Come here!" Mr. Delaney approaches the woman, grabbing her and examining her. She appears hysterical and unresponsive to Mr. Delaney's questioning. "Fucking hell. Okay. Mr. Delaney lifts the woman out of front, presumably into a fireman's carry. The camera swings over the edge of the ravine, showing a large reptilian mass partially exposed by a fissure in the ground. Fuck me. The reptilian mass shifts, with the movement seemingly causing another earth tremor. Mr. Delaney stumbles, hanging onto the ground. A jutting ledge on the opposite
Hanging
side of the ravine
onto the
splits from
ground.
the
That
surrounding
is a
earth,
terrifying
with
sentence.
several flaming trees falling into the scaled mass. The mass splinters away from the burning vegetation, and much more severe tremors begin. An extremely loud roaring sound can be heard, cutting out the audio for the remainder of the footage. The scaled mass retreats beneath the earth. The camera looks towards the sky, showing several lightning flashes through the smoke, and rain beginning to fall. Camera shake presumed to be a result of the earth tremors worsens, as the ravine returns to view. A much larger mass emerges from the earth, resulting in the upheaval of a significant quantity of stone and earth. Frame-by-frame analysis shows that the mass is the head of SCP-6004, on fire and visibly roaring. Mr. Delaney and the unidentified woman are thrown back, with the camera pointing to the sky. SCP-6004 can be seen rising into the air before disappearing in the smoke. Torrential rain begins to fall into frame. Flames recede. End log. Following the emergence of SCP-6004, severe thunderstorms rapidly formed over bushfire-affected areas in Australia, effectively dousing them by mid-March. While the Foundation began to track SCP-6004, investigation revealed that areas affected by these thunderstorms began to exhibit anomalously rapid plant growth. Additionally, both Foundation and mundane weather monitoring organizations detected a reversing of global warming trends. Addendum 6004-2. Early behavior of SCP-6004. Initially, SCP-6004 remained airborne within these thunderstorms, which progressively expanded in area and began appearing further and further from the location of its origin point. Foundation monitors quickly realized that the anomalous rains formed by SCP-6004 were mainly forming above areas affected by desertification and deforestation. During the initial phase of SCP-6004 remaining within Australian borders, these storms covered thousands of square kilometers of farmland, forest,
That's interesting.
areas, and cities.
So it does mention that it was created like 60 million years ago, or 60,000 something. There 60 something. So is this a thaumaturgical countermeasure to catastrophic desertification, or fire, or you know what I'm saying? Like this is the fire department when shit goes wrong on planet Earth.
This was accompanied by large-scale destruction of property as large trees displaced structures. Multiple Foundation sites were mobilized to aid in the search, rescue, and relocation efforts in aid of those affected by the event, with global occult coalitions offering support. Meanwhile, multiple unsuccessful efforts were made by the Foundation to neutralize SCP-6004, which had been determined to be the logical cause of these events.
Yes, ma'am. I know. I'll leave in time. Because Bobby's got to work all this week, so like he'll be asleep, and I'll bounce out as soon as he comes in. Love you too, Mom. You have a good day. a doctor's appointment Wednesday morning. You'll be coming home anyway in the morning, so it won't even matter. You'll be asleep. Oh, I gotta be at her fucking house at like 9:15.
Damn.
Yeah. So like.
She just called for it?
Huh?
That's what she just called for?
Yeah, to make sure everything was still good. You'll be going to sleep anyway.
Oh, no, I don't care, bro.
Yeah, I know. All right, I apologize for that. Mom had to make sure that I was still good for taking her to her doctor's appointment. She got the vid, and everything was okay, but it was staying in her lungs, and she already has COPD. So it made complications with her lungs, and there was already scarring. So it was agitating and inflaming everything in there, and making it harder for her to get breath. So she's been on oxygen. She can move around, she can walk, she can do it. She's got a portable and everything. She can go around. She was like a while ago. She was actually in the store, just wandering around trying to use the rest of the tank so she can put a fresh one on. God bless her. She's a strong woman. She's like 73, and she's doing well. I don't want her to mentally be chained to that oxygen tank. She was talking about like she's able to go longer without oxygen. I mean, she still needs to use it like after a while, like she still needs it for but hopefully things are getting better. And tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but Wednesday, I'll be taking her in the morning. It's going to be, holy hell, that's going to be an early morning, but that's what you do. You do the things. Now, like if things would just work out so that I could be able to give Miss Ashante a ride to work at night, because that would be cool. But sometimes things just don't fucking work out. Like everything just doesn't seem to fucking want to settle into a decent pattern. Such is life. Let's take a dab.
These attempts typically met with violence from SCP-6004, often in the form of lightning strikes or bites. It was during one of these failed attempts that SCP-6004 were first observed to attack a human settlement. On the March 27th, 2020, SCP-6004 directly attacked the city of Canberra. At 10:47 a.m., intense thunderstorms formed over the city, with wind speeds measuring over 140 kilometers per hour. This was promptly followed by SCP-6004 descending from the cloud canopy and making landfall, having attained an unknown size and mass. It proceeded to strike and bite the ground across the city.
Free Axe Gaming.
Infrastructure, as well as the city's inhabitants.
Do I follow the Bible?
Targeted Parliament House in particular.
Most
of the building and its
I'm Roman Catholic.
With extreme force, with some debris and individuals later.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Including Australian Prime Minister
This is
Scott Morrison,
a gaming and entertainment channel, so I would prefer not to mix. I don't even really like talking politics. It usually leads to hurt feelings on one side or another. And I feel that religion and certain other subjects are about the same.
Despite renewed effort from both the
I do have faith in God, yes.
To neutralize, redirect, or otherwise contain SCP-6004,
but my faith in God has nothing to do with any specific religion or earthly book, for that matter.
Power plants. Each of these attacks resulted in the majority of the population of a given area being consumed by SCP-6004.
But if you really want to get down to brass tacks, yes, I'm Roman Catholic.
CCTV footage showing SCP-6004 could be simultaneously tangible, and intangible, as it visibly phased through structures believed to have been deliberately left intact by the entity. Following these attacks, SCP-6004 has always been observed to travel to a
Thank you for the question, though. I
and
appreciate
return to
it.
take pictures of materials. Ensuing investigations
I mean-
of these sightings showed drastically increased wildlife populations in areas where SCP-6004 was seen to vomit, as well as increased fertility in the soil. Due to the scale of the damage,
So I am I am not opposed to answering general questions like that. I mean, I'm a shopkeep, so I get those kind of questions all the time. Well, not all the time, but enough. And I'm glad to share.
caused by SCP-6004. Survivors began to be housed in safer areas of the station previously attacked by SCP-6004. Temporary power sources became necessary on a large scale due to the disruption of the power grids, with many turning to solar power. During resettlement, many survivors and Foundation staff reported a large increase in the population of native wildlife, which did not interfere in resettlement efforts. In late February, the Foundation, Marshall Carter and Darth, and a major sect of the Church of the Broken God came to a truce so as to determine the method of control and containment of SCP-6004. A think tank was organized involving various experts from across the aforementioned organizations to try and establish a working theory of the nature of 6004. Each group independently presented noteworthy similarities between 6004 and Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime stories
That's
of the
beautiful
Rainbow
fucking
Serpent.
illustration.
Research into all available folklore and consultation with relevant unaffiliated persons was initiated with the goal to find a ritual or other avenue of interference that could be used in the containment of the entity. Parallel with the think tank, the Foundation and Global Occult Coalition began expedited development of experimental weaponry, designed with assumptions that SCP-6004 shared metaphysical similarities with. This project came to be known as Project Mongoose. Addendum 6004-3. Discoveries of SCP-6004 attack after effects. Following the destruction of Sydney, an investigatory unit operating out of Site 40 was deployed to the area in an attempt to gather any information possible about SCP-6004 and its effect on areas attacked by it. As this was the first major city to be destroyed by SCP-6004, it was hoped that some significant information would be discovered. At 3:21 a.m., Survey Team 40 arrived in northern Sydney and were instructed to head for Rushcutter's Bay via the city center, as the destruction was particularly intense in the former region. Survey Team 40 was instructed to document and mark the locations of any notable anomalies that had resulted from SCP-6004's attack, as well as mark survivors' location with flares or Foundation rescue teams. The following is a video log taken from Captain John Burko's body cam.
Seems to me like again, this thing stated in the beginning that this thing was made, but population control, or maybe not population control, but like a balancing force between nature and mankind, I would assume.
Of the resulting events, with the relevant sections removed for brevity's sake. Exploration video log transcript. Date, April 7th, 2020. Exploration Team, Survey Team 40. Subject, SCP-6004. Team Lead, Captain John Burko. Team Members, Sergeant Brendan Harlow, Corporal Erwin Perosis, Corporal E. Barahona. Begin log. Camera's view shows that Survey Team 40 is traveling on foot through Sydney City Center. Much of the surrounding structures are severely damaged by emerging plant life, particularly large eucalyptus trees, along with signs of massive impact events. There is steady rain and occasional flashes of lightning. Corporal Perosis can be seen in the lead, using a chainsaw to remove falling timbers from their path. Corporal Barahona stands guard nearby, with her weapon aimed at the tree canopy above them. The rest of the team is currently off camera. We are removing debris from our path, and should be within the area of interest shortly, Command. Captain Perosis saws through a fallen beam, causing most of the debris to slide away. That'll do it. Good work. Keep going, team. Remember, eyes open. Watch the trees for movement and stay away from anything obviously unstable. Yes, Captain. Affirmative. The team continues south via the road, often climbing over roots and through vegetation. You see all those koalas, boss? Camera swivels upward, showing 8 koalas within the treetops looking down at the team. Well, they definitely weren't living here before. Cute, though. Marking it. Command, we have a large number of koalas here. Couldn't have been here before. Marking the location now. Affirmative. This is consistent with other attack locations. Continue to your destination.
Yeah, like,
Affirmative. Move
so
out, guys.
you do away with the fucking
Survey team continues along the
the
route,
toxic spewing
frequency
fucking
and
humans, and
Animals
wherever
seem
they
to
were,
be
now
avoiding
there's
team,
fucking wildlife
with the
and plant
exception of
life.
multiple snakes, which raise
Okay,
their heads and
that's
watch
cool.
the team pass.
Can we have one of those?
I don't like that. Do we have anti-venom ready, Captain? A dose for each of us. Just stamp your feet as you walk and it'll leave us alone. I swear, I keep seeing something big in the trees.
Because I'll be
Where?
honest,
Point it out.
I don't feel
Movement.
like humanity's doing a
Camera
very great
swivels to the
job at the whole
direction
steward
indicated by
thing.
Perosis. A large mass can be seen moving behind some vegetation. The team trained their weapons on it, with Perosis taking cover by a car close to the vegetation. Command, unidentified creature has been spotted. Going to attempt to flush it out. Be careful. Barahona, toss that stone behind the bushes. See if it runs out. Barahona can be seen nodding, reaching to grab a fragment of concrete, looking to Captain Burko before throwing the stone. There is a dull thud and a deep grunting sound from the bushes as the creature moves towards the team. Shit, I hit it. Into cover, now. Barahona can be seen ducking into cover by a pile of rubble, and the camera begins to jolt in time with the sound of the creature's footsteps.
Doom,
Vegetation is increasingly
Ba-doom.
disturbed as it approaches.
ba-doom,
Fuck, it sounds huge.
ba-doom,
Calm yourself, here it
Ba-doom.
comes.
ba-doom.
A large brown furred quadruped
Ba-doom.
measuring approximately 2 meters tall emerges from the bushes, snorting and grunting. It stops upon reaching the clearing where the survey team is and looks around at its surroundings. Is that a giant wombat? Command, identification? Do we know what it is? Something in the databases. This isn't a known anomaly. Evans instructions of a diprotodon, an extinct giant wombat. What the fuck? The diprotodon
That is
begins
most
to snort
excellent.
and throws its head in the air aggressively, pawing at the ground, approaching Sergeant Harlow. Harlow aims his weapon at it and begins backing away, while the animal continues to approach him. Fuck off! Get back, fucker! Harlow, slowly back away. Stop shouting. Barahona, get
Don't
the trauma
fuck
kit
with
ready.
the wombats.
Harlow begins to back away from the diprotodon, which in turn stops before roaring at him. Sergeant Harlow flinches, but returns to cover. Movement can be seen in the treetops behind him, but is not noticed by the team. After a moment, the diprotodon snorts and begins eating grass, before returning to the bushes. Everyone alright? I guess. I think the sergeant need new pants. Fuck off. Fine. Enough. We need to keep moving. I don't want to be here as 6004 comes back. So it's making extinct animals too? not just koalas? Looks that way.
Hmm.
The team continues towards Rushcutter's Bay, eventually reaching the edge of a large crater formed by SCP-6000.
Hey viewer, how you doing? We're
Trees and
checking out
vines can be seen growing visibly larger within the crater,
SCP-6004, giant
and
wombats.
kangaroos are foraging among the
That's
area.
not SCP-6004,
Fuck me.
but it's cool anyway.
How big must that snake be to do this? Varies. Eggheads at 40 says it changes between 400 meters to over 1,000 Ks long. Jesus. Command, we're going to need to detour around this area. Roger.
Crater.
Be advised, we have detected movement in the trees and buildings above you. Be careful. Fuck. Diprowombats? Diprotodon. Diprotodon. Who cares? Whatever. Quiet. Acknowledge command. Teams, eyes up high. Survey Team 40 continues along the lip of the crater, before coming to a ruined apartment block overhanging the edge. A group of large kangaroos approximately 2.5 meters tall are grazing beside it, looking over at the team. Hold up. Go around them. Don't want to piss them off if we don't have to. They're huge. Evans has identified those of Procoptodon Goliath, an extinct short-faced kangaroo. Given their size, I would recommend caution. Thanks. You heard her, team. Steer clear. The team moves to circle around the animals, when Corporal Ferocis is seen to swing his weapon and light towards the apartment building. A moderately large animal can be seen emerging from a hole in the wall, with its eyes reflecting the light into the camera. Watch it. Take cover. Weapons ready. Team takes cover and aims weapon towards the animal. It is a brown color with white stripes, a robust muscular build, and a large mouth with large teeth. It slowly climbs down the side of the building, towards the Procoptodons, which have turned to face the team. Am I the only one who thinks that looks like that thing up in Canada? Oh shit. Team, Evans here. That's a marsupial lion. Thylacoleo carnifex. Powerful predator. Looks like it's hunting the kangaroos. Assuming it works like normal predators, don't bother it and it should leave you alone. Assuming. Team, be ready to fire on the lion. Way ahead of you. Okay, got it. The Thylacoleo carnifex drops from the building to the back of a Procoptodon, grabbing it and biting it around the neck. The other Procoptodons scatter rapidly, fleeing into the trees. The two animals struggle, before the Thylacoleo subdues the Procoptodon, removing the head and begin to drag the carcass back up the side of the apartment block. Two smaller Thylacoleos can be seen at the edge of the hole, where the larger instance emerged from, vocalizing loudly. Holy shit! Fuck me! Easy guys, easy. Marlowe, cover me while I recover the head. Yes, Captain. Marco approaches the severed Procoptodon head, with the camera repeatedly swiveling to see where the Thylacoleo went. Verco picks up the head and goes to place it in a containment pouch. Hold on. Is that a tattoo? What? Verco turns the head over and examines it. The words "Live, Laugh, Love" can be seen tattooed on the brow ridge of the Procoptodon.
Oh shit.
Along with a stylized human skull on the right side of the face. Holy shit. End log.
Oh wow.
Following review of the footage, these tattoos were matched to those on John Baring.
Wow.
A tattoo artist whose body was not recovered following SCP-6004's attack on Sydney. It is now believed that all animals emerging in the wake of SCP-6004 attacks are people that have been transfigured into wildlife within SCP-6004 before being regurgitated.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, give this guy a like, subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff. He has lots of really, really good content, especially this guy. Anantashesha, that thing's creepy as all hell. Okay. I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette real quick, but next up we have this is by Upper Echelon. Sure some of you are familiar with him. Oh yeah, no, that's the, I'm already subbing there. Okay, yeah. All right. So, before we do that, I'm gonna go stretch my legs, smoke a cigarette, and yeah, I might have to order some fucking Domino's here in a bit. In fact, that might be the order of the day. Whoa. Okay. I'll be right back. Let me just put some music on real quick. Bloop. Bloop. Gnomish cap of warmth. Hi guys, welcome back. This completely awesome and chill music is by Total Eclipse. You can't see me gesturing at the yes. Yeah, whatever. The guy on screen. Total Eclipse. It's a good music. Okay, now this is Welcome to the Media Factory by Upper Echelon. So let's give it a watch.
Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire Upper Echelon community. What do people picture when they hear the words fake news? Some people think of times like this.
This video right here appearing to show Turkey's military purge civilians in a Syrian border town.
This video, obtained by ABC News, appears to show the fury of the Turkish attack on the border town of Tal Abyad 2 nights ago.
That was ABC News, but the wartime footage supposedly out of Syria is fake. It's actually from a place called Knob Creek, Kentucky, where an annual gun show is put on with everything from fireworks to miniguns. But ABC published it to the world on their multi-million viewer platform as if it were conflict footage from Syria. In the grand scheme of things, that's a very simple mistake. Fake footage, fake story, fake news. But what if I told you that the media factory was bigger than you could ever possibly imagine, with global sensationalism, psychological manipulation, and severe consequences? Fake news is a very flexible term. Does it mean outright lies? Does it mean manipulated narratives? Does it mean slanted interpretation of objectively verifiable facts? Or is it something else entirely? Even more confusing, what would we call a synchronized and specifically manufactured narrative emerging simultaneously across dozens of local news channels with identical wording? Is that fake news, or is it just coordination of sorts, like this?
We're extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
We are concerned about the sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
That was a collection of TV hosts, local TV hosts, being fed a scripted narrative from an organization called the Sinclair Broadcasting Group, first reported on by Deadspin. Is it good to have synchronized messaging on that large of a scale? Is it bad? Or is it just another indication of what I like to call the media factory? How about another example? This right here is footage from Reuters, showcasing the arrest of climate activist Greta Thunberg during a protest in Germany. On the surface, many people likely have some kind of politicized opinions on all this, but the objective facts of the matter seem to be as follows. German authorities appear to have been unaware of who Greta Thunberg is. For those that don't know, she's a globally famous Swedish teenager vowing to protest until international leaders take action on mitigating climate change and a couple of other agenda items. However, after carrying her away from the main protest, physically, they were bombarded with media, cameras, and requests for a photograph. This led to a rather bizarre situation. Police stood there posing with her temporarily, showcasing a calm and collected activist, gently moved to a position where she was then smiling for the cameras, with the police actively arresting her, which was clipped and shipped all across the world, primarily America, as a packaged individual. Anybody who is watching this right now likely saw at some point footage from this encounter crossing their feed, but rather than some sort of fake arrest or a staged photo shoot by police, as most people were calling it, it is infinitely more likely, I would say certain in fact, that something quite a bit simpler had transpired. The real explanation here, far from flashy headlines or politicized narratives, was that police had arrested someone, found out that she was famous, and swept up in the moment, surrounded by a throng of clamoring journalists and media outlets asking to get footage with cameras. They allowed the shoot to take place, participating as a result of media persuasion. Cameras change behavior. That's going to be a theme for this entire
Yeah, they do.
This is a phenomenon studied as far back as 1953, where 31 trained observers were posted at a Chicago Day parade in order to
Which is
document
I try to,
how
like,
events
I
were
don't,
reported,
I mean,
how television
I'm lazy
viewers
as
see
fuck,
them,
so I don't
and
like
how
editing
actual
anyway,
audiences
but, I mean,
experience them in the moment. From that
Here it
research,
is.
quote, the differing characteristics of the television version may be attributed to A, technological bias, i.e. the necessary arbitrary sequence of telecasting events, and the choices by television personnel of what is important, B, structuring an event by the announcer who, through his commentary, helps the spectator gain a stable orientation from one particular perspective, and C, reciprocal effects which modify the event itself by staging it in a way which makes it more suitable for telecasting and creates among the actors the consciousness of acting for a larger audience. End quote. That's the crazy part. Modify the events by staging them in a way which makes it more suitable for telecasting and creates among the actors the consciousness of acting for a larger audience. Cameras change behavior, and when dealing with polarization or other effects of political division, the media factory is, at best, contributing to an atmosphere of deception, and at worst, manufacturing news by virtue of their very existence, perpetuating a cycle of sensationalized behavior. Today's video sponsor, all about online privacy and data protection. Every day, your data is at risk of being sold to third-party brokers or accessed without your knowledge in data breaches. To be perfectly honest, some people might not care about this, but they should, and for anyone who wants to prevent that kind of thing, today's video sponsor can help. Companies maintain a lot of your personal information in their records, all over the place, and not just the ones you know about or signed up for deliberately, but other data firms as well who then sell it all across the internet. For everyday users, it's nearly impossible to take any action on this because there are hundreds of these data brokers, and it's a lengthy process to contact them, fight objections, and get your data legally approved. However, Incogni does all of this for you quickly and easily. The process is extremely simple. This is something I can personally attest to. Sign up for the site, give them specific legal permission to work on your behalf, and let them know what kind of information you'll be having removed. I've done it, and I stand by the results. Plus, it is a service created by a long-standing channel partner who makes it possible to do what I do, Surfshark. The first 100 people to click the link down below in the description and use code ECHELON at checkout will get 60% off their subscription to Incogni. Again, link down below and promo code ECHELON for the first 100 viewers only who use it to get 60% off their subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for sponsoring the channel. Let's go a little bit more in depth. Does anyone remember Kimbo Slice? Obviously not, because why would you? But Kimbo Slice is a very interesting and glaring example of a media pseudo-event that seems to have been caught right out in the open. Kimbo Slice was a notorious street fighter and bare-knuckle boxer in the early 2000s, culminating in 2010 when a set of losses ended his time in the spotlight. More interesting than his actual career, by far, however, is the controversy surrounding it. In 2008, Kimbo Slice was set to fight against UFC dropout Seth Petrozelli. But when the fight spectacularly ended in just 14 seconds by way of knockout, things got interesting. Seth Petrozelli, on record, stated, quote, "The promoters kind of hinted to me and they gave me the money to stand and trade with him. They didn't want me to take him down. Let's just put it that way. It was worth my while to try to stand up and punch with him." End quote. This would, of course, later be denied by the event organizer, Elite XC, and retracted by Petrozelli himself, but Elite XC parent company Pro Elite immediately went bankrupt following the controversy, raising questions about motive when considering all context. A street-based bare-knuckles online celebrity, whose one-dimensional fighting style made him popular initially, was out of his depth against anyone who was more well-rounded. But not to worry, because in an effort to make the bout much more interesting, Elite XC allegedly attempted to augment the fighting style of Kimbo Slice's opponent to make the bout more interesting for viewers and longer, while their parent company, Pro Elite, struggled to maintain stable footing. That, in my opinion, would be what's called a failed media pseudo-event that also happens to contain underlying elements of sports manipulation and probably criminal activity if it's true. I should note that the Florida State Boxing Commission found no evidence of wrongdoing a few days after the company went out of business, so viewers can draw their
Yeah,
own
but we
conclusions
can't
on that
trust
part,
fucking
but the
Florida
basic premise
anyway.
remains. Cameras change behavior. They change behavior by way of actions when people realize that they're being filmed. They change behavior in more direct ways when newsworthy events are deliberately altered to be much more cinematic. And they change behavior by creating something that can be entirely divorced from truth, which is then packaged and sold to the people without their knowledge. So why does it matter? A climate activist, a street fighter, and a simple mistake by a news agency. Big deal. Well, it is a big deal because the media factory is not governed, limited, or even hindered by the size and scope of an individual story. They are governed simply by a need to produce engaging content as often as possible for consumption by as many people as possible. This creates an issue. News, with a capital N, is not just informational reporting, it's entertainment. And entertainment gets ratcheted up in relative intensity as the audience becomes desensitized to it. A 14-second bout between Kimbo Slice, a notorious street boxer, and Seth Petrozelli, a UFC dropout, is entertaining, but a multi-round process where the fan-favorite Street Fighter slugs it out with a UFC dropout with all the blood and fanfare one could expect from a street fight, capitalizing on his existing audience, is better, much better, and a symbolic statue being torn down after a kinetic warfare invasion, well, that's just fantastic. Thoroughly detailed by journalist Peter Mass and later discussed by
Just want me some Domino's. I usually get the same thing though, the chicken, bacon, and tomato, and then
setting the stage here,
the cheesy bread. But instead of bacon and tomato this time, I'm getting the feta and spinach. It's not any healthier. I just want to change just something different.
Saddam Hussein has fallen. The tearing down of his ubiquitous statue in Baghdad Wednesday symbolized the collapse of his regime as U.S. troops took control of the capital streets to a jubilant welcome. Iraqis cheered and waved, denouncing Saddam and, in many cases, praising President George Bush. When a group of Iraqis took a sledgehammer to the giant plinth beneath a Saddam statue opposite the International Press Headquarters at the Palestine Hotel, journalists and TV anchors everywhere couldn't resist making the comparison.
This kind of behavior from journalism in general these days is what drives most of us to get our news sources from several different areas on the internet, especially non-American news sources, because they have different views on everything, including how they feel about us on different subjects. Not just that we're Americans, but on a variety of different issues about being American. A lot of times you will have to look at the same article from different viewpoints to get an accurate understanding of what's going on in the world.
With the tearing down of the Berlin Wall in 1989, while the statue's toppling may become the signature video clip signifying the event, images from elsewhere in the city served as a reminder that this was nothing like Berlin in 1989. End quote. Compelling stuff, but remember, cameras change behavior. In the immediate aftermath of the invasion, the video of Saddam's statue falling was a sort of culminating event that visually seemed to encapsulate the entire war. It was a celebration. It was said that Iraqis were the ones rejoicing, and that the statue coming down was a sign of victory and change. But reality is a very different creature compared to what the media factory captures. In truth, according to eyewitness reports, testimony, and broader photo evidentiary context, the crowd of people celebrating was majorly composed of just journalists. The jubilant crowd of watchers, were mostly holding cameras, and what was packaged, then exported to the world, was a far cry from the actual series of events taking place on the ground. Everyone was expecting a sort of culminating event of sorts. Even as the city burned, looters ran rampant, and a small military-secured bubble was formed in the middle of all the chaos. Hordes of cameras were spun up, a mass of journalists formed, pointing those cameras in a shared direction all around them. And once the demand for a culminating event was created, the event itself materialized and quickly followed. For ABC News, they were either given or gathered a falsified video, which was then improperly labeled and pushed out to the world as if it were a Syrian conflict zone. For
Yes, sir.
The demand from a group of reporters, the incessant demand, I would likely say, from reporters and cameras, created a photo.
I don't know. You look. You have a phone.
An arrest sequence, as it should have
You have a phone. Look.
Spread to every corner of the internet as a damning indictment of media ethics and reporting, but again, it was manufactured. For Kimbo Slice, an entertainment company created a media event with an enormous amount of cameras pointed at a single arena, which then led to allegations directly from one of the fighters that they had attempted to modify fighting styles as well to create more drama as the parent company basically fell apart. And for the entire world, a scene out of Iraq, or not the entire world, but most of the world, a scene out of Iraq became a symbolic victory for America, despite the fact that it was almost entirely...
It's right around the corner.
...as a direct result of the dynamic between cameras and crowds. Possibly motivated by a clamoring horde of fixated media reporters, the Iraqi man who took the hammer to the
ordered my new monitor today.
Now profoundly regrets the decision.
Yeah, that's what I just said. It's a couple of right around the corner, a couple of days. So I said it's right around the corner.
Improper foreign policy. Who knows? Or is
I got my new. Oh, yeah. I ordered my new monitor. That shit's gonna be fucking tight. But I've got to rearrange the whole back panel in front of me, or the panel in front of me.
My guess, a combination of factors endemic to the process of gathering breaking news resulted in an atmosphere not unlike that of mob mentality but twisted and perverse beyond it, since the mob is holding cameras and expecting someone else to do something for them to make things interesting. The media factory is precisely that, a factory, a production line, a system in place that seems to now create a constant flow of excitement and drama instead of merely documenting it if and when it occurs. And I can't pretend that all of it is intentional or malicious or even negligent. Some of it is just unfortunate. But the media factory, above all else, is a self-governing perpetual engine that demands the most extreme entertainment it can find at all hours of the day, every single day of the week. If it bleeds, it leads, is a commonly understood phrase in many parts of the world. Maybe not that many parts of the world, but still. And the reason for that is because news syndicates and their audiences prioritize violent and morbid coverage. I'm guilty of falling into that feedback loop myself. I mean, just look at the type of content I produce. But research out of McGill University in Canada, titled Consumer Demand for Cynical and Negative News Frames, studying tone, topic, policy, and style, found, quote, regardless of their preferences as stated in a survey, participants are more likely to select negative content. More informed participants are drawn to strategic frames as well, end quote. What does it mean? Simple. It means that we, as viewers and receivers of prepackaged news media, are naturally drawn to negative content. Having identified this, the media factory now...
Humans like drama. We know this. I mean, just look at Jerry Springer. I mean, like that was like one of those, like, that was one of those watershed moments where, like, not just America but the rest of the world like really understood where American tastes were going. And it's not just us either. Like everybody likes a bit of the old ultra violence, as they say. And it can be a problem because like when you're trying to sell your story or your video or your movie or your screenplay or anything that you want people to be like, oh, I want to see that, you gotta make it pop. You got to make it, attractive to who you're aiming at, your audience. No, I'm good. I just ordered Domino's.
You ordered Domino's?
Yep. What do you want me? What do you want me to say, Bobby? Yeah, I'm ordering Domino's. Oh, do you want anything? No, not really.
I'll make some macaroni.
So anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by the person that doesn't want anything really, I'll probably share some of my cheesy bread with him. He likes cheese just like anybody else. He's still a weirdo though. He doesn't like tomatoes and he doesn't like lamb and other. He doesn't like mushrooms, which is fucking. It's fucking craziness. Well, kind of lost the fucking thread of what we were originally talking about. Fuck.
caters to it by influencing the world.
Oh yeah, we like drama. We love drama. Drama. If we can hear how somebody's career is going up in flames, or like something, and especially if it's something we already fucking detest, don't like, or it's an equality check, or just don't agree with, like we want to see them go down in flames of an apocalyptic nature. So yeah, we're always gonna click on drama-filled headlines. Not all the time. Sometimes we like the feel-good stuff. Sometimes we get so saturated with the horror and the terror and the violence and just the general meanness that we get up to every day against each other. We do like the good stories. We do want to hear the good stories. It's just that the good stories sometimes they end up being fluff pieces that don't fucking matter about anything. And sometimes they just get lost in the absolute fucking like forest of fucking like bad news. Like how are you gonna care about a new park opening when people are dying, or like we're having train derailments and fucking chemicals spilling everywhere and shootings everywhere, and it's just like it's every day. It's always this bullshit, always this fucking drama. And yeah, we've been trained. Like, I mean, that's what newspapers are for. They're for the news. Like, you know, whether it be good or bad, it's for the news. It just happens that a lot of times bad news is the news that's is getting reported, or it's the news that people are paying to get reported. Pick your poison.
Even so far as to create wildly inaccurate global headlines simply by existing and trying to film something. News media is a dangerous thing.
It is.
For-profit reporting that competes against other channels to capture audience interest seems purpose-built for a descent into industrialized but scripted chaos. And it may be a completely unavoidable phenomenon, but at the very least, we all need to understand it. That's it. If you want to support, please consider checking the links down below, primarily locals and Patreon for a monthly subscription, also merchandise, social media, the video sponsor, some YouTube alternatives, and more, but I'll cut it there and stop recording. And I'll try to look for more cool topics that aren't negative all the time. Like, I gotta spice it up and have some cool, fun things. But yeah, and as always, thank you all for watching and have a nice night.
Thank you very much for your work, sir. So yeah, he's got lots of stuff. We could actually, we could watch. Because that's like, yeah. Let's see what's up in the videos. Yeah, so let's check out, because yeah, let's see what this is about.
This video is brought to you by Cook Unity. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. Alright, it's been a while since I posted, and here's why. About 2 weeks ago, I published a video. That video was based on a social experiment I had attempted to run, which used exclusively AI-generated content, audio, visual, text, in order to create a false identity for the sake of dispersing information as a sort of shock and awe style proof, if you will, about the imminent danger of human beings losing control of reality. That may sound hyperbolic, I get it, so let me explain. We are on the precipice right now of being unable to trust anything we ever see online. Now, for some, that's already the case. Discerning and skeptical viewers may already adhere to a more rigid set of principles about seeing versus believing, but the reality is such that even now, our ability to see something and have any degree of confidence whatsoever in its authenticity based on merely looking at it is crumbling. There are, of course, a few different ways for the moment to go about checking what is and is not true, though that will likely be outpaced because the ability to manufacture fake content will always outpace the ability to check what is real if the ability to fake things comes first, which it has, but that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down. That's probably what my job is about to become exclusively, as the world is all out consumed by the reckless pursuit of LLM, large language model prediction methods, but for the topic today, it's a bit more focused, having merely originated from that social experiment, not so much adhered to it as a core guiding principle. Here's a quick summary for the people that never watched the first video, though I would advise doing so for context if anyone is interested in the subject matter, generally speaking. My experiment revolved around crafting a false identity with AI, but also crafting false metrics with botted social media accounts to create the appearance of authority. This went okay at first, but I rapidly began to see that the accounts I was purchasing were 100% artificially botted by what I now refer to as a directed bot network. That realization was fairly important because after becoming aware, I decided to
bots are a big fucking thing in a lot of sectors.
Info scraping, modularity algorithms, and extensive research into the inner workings of Twitter botnet traffic with what I personally believe are fascinating discoveries. The initial method of analysis was rather primitive, I do have to admit that. After buying a botted social media account and naming it Cynthia Talbot, or SynthBot for short, I created a research burner account which I used to follow all of the accounts that had been artificially directed at Cynthia Talbot in order to inflate her following.
Excuse me, bear.
This worked in a very simplistic way. by allowing me to backtrack through the
some
list of
chicken
other followed
and,
accounts, thereby starting to create my own list of where this directed bot network had been individually pointed.
No.
For clarity,
No, no.
since the topic of online bot traffic is so wildly complex, a directed bot network refers to a large number of synchronized, totally artificial accounts, not real people, that are spun up, directed to a target, and told all of them to follow. I started by analyzing more of the accounts where this bot network had been deliberately sent, but I started to realize that this was probably one of the least intuitive ways to gather any information, and I needed to step it up. Enter Shino. Shino is one of my Discord administrators.
Oh, your glasses?
A long-time affiliate of the channel.
What?
He showed me a process where accounts can be scraped and analyzed through the use
What
of
will?
API, after which they can
Oh, yeah, that's what I said, yeah.
called Gephi to analyze results and visually graph the composition.
They weren't in your room.
Interactions, connections, overlapping data points. The process was actually very interesting and involved a couple different methods. On the one hand, we were gathering info with direct usage of Twitter's new API tools, having paid for them under the Upper Echelon business license. On the other hand, we also found that we could copy the authorization header value from a request to the version 1.1 API, which didn't have Elon's new artificially imposed rate limits. That might have a few serious security implications down the line, I'm not sure. Also, side note, Elon Musk has now made it exponentially more difficult and expensive to research anything like this, which is kind of super annoying. That public key let us scrape followers, feed them into the modularity algorithm, and start mapping the bot network as well as secondary communities or industries that it targets. This is a game changer, it really is, and let us down a rabbit hole.
I don't know why you don't wear your glasses, Bobby, but
Indian politics, American politics, adult content, and crypto, which are overrun with either directed bot traffic or integrated bot traffic, also referred to here forward as echo chamber bot traffic. All in all, what we've found appears to be a nearly 10-year widespread democratically aligned blue wave propaganda network that was used in 2016, 2020, and is being spun back up right now for 2024 to once again flood social media, in this particular case Twitter, with enormous amounts of pro-democratic talking points, anti-opposition memes, and bolster the metrics of major DNC officials like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, also their spouses, as well as John Cooper, Hillary Clinton, and more. I know that's a really big claim to make, but here we are. Hey, if you want to win, you gotta fuel like a winner. Shout out to everyone who got the reference. Today's video sponsor is a little bit different, but that's a good thing, in my opinion.
So, when you're on a media campaign, that's kind of what you gotta do. I don't understand. That's marketing,
right on your doorstep
is what it
every
is.
single week. Meals come fully cooked with dozens and dozens of options, including vegan, paleo, and gluten-free for those that are interested in that sort of thing, alongside an emphasis on flavor diversity, inventiveness, and convenience. Most recently, I myself had the ginger scallion chicken and sesame noodles made by chefs Yong Zhao and Wanting Zhao in Brooklyn, New York. Another example would be hanger steak with cheesy corn.
I'm
on
not
the
saying
cob,
it's like,
I love corn on the cob and I love cheese. From Chef Ruben Garcia, also in New York. And just to showcase the sheer number of options available.
No, it's just business. There's no moral or ethical concerns about it. It's just business.
Every single week and choose from
You're trying to get your
incredible array of
messaging in
dishes
front of as many
prepared by hand
people as
every
possible.
day in regional micro kitchens, not warehouses or
And
commercialized
botting is a
production
very,
facilities.
very easy and
Personally,
economical
the
way
value
to
I
do
get
it.
from these is by planning specifically for lunch. Breakfast with family, dinner with family, of course, but in the middle of the day where I'm working on video topics and engrossed in research for different things, I need something fast, good, and easy. That's where Cook Unity comes in, allowing me to stay focused on work while also having delicious things to eat. And it is tremendously valuable for me in my current career field. You can choose your favorite meals, pause, skip, or cancel at any point in time. And as a special offer to the Upper Echelon community, you can get 50% off your first order of Cook Unity meals by going to the link down below in the description with code Upper Echelon 50 at checkout. Again, link down below and 50% off your first order with code Upper Echelon 50. Big thank you to Cook Unity for sponsoring the channel. Before discussing in full detail, I'd like to go over the general methodology. At first, I was merely using my own arbitrary set of criteria to detect bot engagement, which clearly worked, but was fairly primitive, obviously. For this project, though, thanks to Shino, I was able to explore resources from the Indiana Observatory on Social Media, who has done extensive work cataloging, identifying, and defining social media bot activity with analytical tools for how to discover, organize, and evaluate the material. Social Bot Practicum for Computational Social Scientists, detection of novel social bots by ensembles of specialized classifiers, feature engineering for social bot detection, even the DARPA Twitter Bot Challenge are all very valuable resources to understand, among many others, But for the sake of simplicity,
I'll be right back, guys. I gotta go get my food real quick.
But my glasses are in giant, and I know that they'll be found. They're in that store somewhere. One of my coworkers will all find those motherfuckers. But I'm wearing these things on my head from now on, dude. I should have been anyway, you know.
Sorry, guys. Oh, but I am a fat man at heart. Okay. So, oh, my sauce. My sauce. I sauce, you sauce, we sauce. All right. Thank you very much for waiting. I'm sorry the music died on everyone. But it doesn't matter because we are...
We decided to work with a combination of their tools and the methods I had already been using, successfully I might add, which led us to a pair of accounts. Before fully exploring, however, we need a clear-cut explanation of how all of this works. This right here is a visualized graph of Cynthia Talbot. The small white dots, not connected to one another in the slightest, are obviously pretty much all bots, directed to follow the account by whatever person or entity is in command of the centralized network. This is a directed bot network that has targeted hundreds that we know of, more likely tens of thousands, of individual profiles and artificially inflated their follower count. Pretty straightforward, kind of a one-dimensional botnet. However, this right here is the graph produced by analyzing a different account named Z Promoter. We didn't even go that far down this particular rabbit hole either, but the point is these bot networks have wildly different operational patterns. Some are directed, some are meshed together into a tightly packed ball where everyone knows everyone. Others have been targeted by multiple separate bot networks, as can be visually seen when they're graphed out, etc., etc. But the point
I think
is,
I got an offer
bots are not as simple as many people
in my
believe.
channel comments. Somebody wanted to do like
patient zero, if you will, Cynthia Talbot, who had been fully botted by a direct network. There were two additional accounts of note.
Promo SM or something like that.
And the other, Simba Golden 1. These accounts returned dramatically different network graphs, and Simba Golden 1 in particular is where we struck gold. This graph right here is the one constructed after analyzing Simba Golden 1 with the modularity algorithm and graphing it out in Getty. This meshed amalgamation of colors here was a brand new section of the network that had been fully integrated with Democratic-leaning politicians. It's actually kind of hard to condense everything that we found in a single video, but I'll try. Mapped by the modularity algorithm, different colors represent different communities, and as time went on, identifying and analyzing these communities with a replicatable method turned into a multi-stage research project. As discussed earlier, there were 4 separate communities primarily identified through a series of connections that had become infested. And when I say infested, I mean absolutely infested and overrun with botted traffic and followers, including American politics, Indian politics, which I didn't really analyze, but that's an interesting one. Adult content, obviously, specifically Asian adult content, and crypto. For the adult content portion of the botnet, we stayed pretty far away from that one. Those accounts were, for the most part, baited phishing hooks. That's the best way to describe them. These accounts have been thoroughly botted from top to bottom with fake followers, posted a collection of non-original pornographic content from around the web, and contained altered URLs in their description that had been shortened to obfuscate their destination, their real destination. They use like bit.ly or whatever the URL shorteners are, some of which contained malware. That section is likely the most immediately dangerous area of the botnet, but for today's video, it's a place we mostly stayed away from. The area we ultimately ended up focusing our efforts was, in order to consistently evaluate the accounts shown on this particular graph, we employed a variety of different tactics. Number 1, evaluate the profile. What's the bio? What's the tweet activity look like? When is the tweet activity happening? And what was their first ever content posted? After that, we looked for significant gaps in their behavior, any indications of the account having changed hands or been compromised, checked Social Blade, and also plugged the profile into the Indiana University identification tools. What we found was that the vast majority of these accounts are classified as echo chamber bots with 70 to 90% confidence by the Indiana Observatory,
wow.
as well as nearly every single account analyzed tripping our own personal criteria, such as retweet spam to mask impossibly low engagement. When I say impossibly low, by the way, I mean impossibly low. 5, maybe 10 likes per original post, with 50 to 100,000 supposed followers, all gained in the past couple of years. Similar retweeting patterns, tens of thousands of followed accounts, and suspicious gaps in activity. They're really tripping all of the different criteria to be categorized as bots. In fact, there were a multitude of tie-ins to what seemed to be very clear additional sections of bot network activity, but we
He's a
did have
mess.
to realistically limit the scope of where we looked owing to the sheer size and scale of the problem. Regardless, what we found was that there is a tremendous bot network that has now been spun up twice and is gearing up again. Many accounts already contain the Blue Wave 2024 hashtags. It's all over, and bio descriptions similar to the past 2 cycles. It's being spun up again for the 2024 election. To be clear, if anyone were to be somehow uncertain about the accuracy of these results, here's a direct side-by-side comparison. The orange and red are integrated bots with between 70% and 91% confidence that focus on political, adult, or crypto themes, bolstering an entire community of false activity. And the blue examples are real people that I personally know on Twitter and can say with certainty are real people. Big Fry, a YouTuber, Kira TV, Callum Upton, Josh Hayes, Nicholas Diorio, even Aria Realty, the most brain-dead person I've ever met in my life and a supporter of Earth 2 of all things, comes back as clearly human. Not to be relied on exclusively, these bot prediction tools are useful, but the size and scale of these networks, combined with a current push by Elon Musk to apparently lock down and paywall as much of the platform as possible, make it difficult, expensive, and time-consuming to analyze. Perhaps one of the most straightforward examples I can show here is an account named Big Blue Wave USA, which is a central target of bot network traffic, and when I say central, I mean it's very central to bot network traffic, alongside former Democratic administration official John Cooper. Big Blue Wave USA, as obvious as it is, right on the nose, also has 5 identical backup accounts ready to spin up at any point in time, and aggressively, constantly pushes DNC propaganda. Now, in the interest of being unbiased here, viewers might say, well, it's not propaganda because it's true. All Republicans are evil, which is a perfectly fine opinion to hold. But on the flip side, John Cooper, another central figure propped up by this enormous integrated bot network, has routinely put out false information, made up facts, and polluted the value of Twitter discourse with fake news that is then propelled to a massive audience through the largest bot network I've ever seen. The pattern is extremely obvious. Disinterested or possibly apolitical individual accounts all at once, either in the lead up to 2016, 2020, or even now, make a sharp pivot and begin posting exclusively retweets, only DNC-favored political content, and amplifying a select set of high-ranking DNC officials and Democratic politicians, all at the exact same time. While doing so, they trip almost every single echo chamber bot warning imaginable from third-party sources and evaluation tools, as well as the criteria we developed ourselves, creating an enormous spiderweb of interconnected but largely inauthentic accounts that are likely managed by real people somewhere up the line.
Sorry.
More as propaganda foot soldiers in a public relations campaign than actual humans. Here's the thing, though. I can't claim with any degree of absolute certainty that this bot network, as far as it goes, is measurably impacted elections. But what I can do is draw a few connections. In the aftermath of 2020, despite winning the presidency, the Democratic political machine was left picking up the pieces in the wake of a, go figure, blue wave that never crested. There's a big blue wave coming that will wipe away the Republicans, posted by The Hill on July 12th, 2020. These kinds of titles were abundant and certain, right up until the very moment that they were completely wrong. What happened to the big blue wave? Where did it go? Theories on why this mirage might have been differ dramatically, but I would like to posit that a massive bot network of falsified social media traffic contributed, at least in part, to a sort of grassroots blue wave atmosphere on social media by design, which ultimately caught the party.
Not right now, no.
When the
Not right now, no.
with as much tenacity and zeal as the bots were able to manufacture.
I usually use my t-shirt.
And even if it were to be true, it would
I usually use my t-shirt.
Factor in play, but the reality is that tens of thousands of highly sculpted and artificially propped up political Twitter accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers millions of followers between them, some of them with hundreds of thousands individually, are integrated into the democratic political community of social media, very integrated, at the highest possible level, with a clear and intentional design that uses them every couple of years to push mass levels of propaganda and DNC talking points as far as possible on the platform. Now, this just needs to be said. I am extremely confident that there will be a Republican version of this bot network somewhere out there on social media. Maybe Twitter, maybe Facebook, I don't know. I haven't yet seen it, but I find it impossible to believe that just the Democratic propaganda machine uses this technique, in a world where social media is one of the central pillars behind American politics. It seems obvious to me that both sides engage in this type of behavior somewhere down the line. I just happened to tap into this particular part of the network first because that's where my entry point was closest to. I'll keep searching. We very likely will find the GOP version of this and be able to analyze it, but for right now, what you see is what you get. It's important for us to remember not all of these people are bots. Some of them, very few of them, but some of them are just human NPCs who regurgitate whatever political messaging they see and agree with. But probability here is that a significant portion of specifically blue wave political accounts are manufactured. And yes, only 37% of my own audience these days even reside in America, but all of us that do reside here should be aware that the social media landscape is dominated by bot networks that are remarkably good at passing for human already, or, well, on the surface they are, and will only improve with time, making it more essential than ever to be aware.
Can you imagine AI bot networks that literally you can't tell? Like you've been like friends with somebody like for a while, and you've probably I don't know, it's something you just never know that they were not a real person. You've been talking to this guy for a while, this girl for a while, and turns out that they're just a propaganda bot or just an AI like
people in the blue wave echo chambers. The community is driven by an
NPC that is like that can interact with like player characters.
Legitimate users roped into the network seem to be.
We did see that that video. Well, I think we watched it here. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but like where this company had an AI companion that was for lonely people, and it was really good until it started making like sexual advances, and like it's I mean, not necessarily like the wrong kind, but like, you know, instead of keeping it copacetic, or like, you know, like romantic, like, but not hardcore, like they would get a little bit hardcore, and then after a bunch of hoopla from like a small group of people, or like somebody said something and they took all those features out, and now you have all these people that are absolutely like, give back the sneaky sexy features right now. You can't just give it to us and then take it away, and that is terrifying. Like, you know, like, can you imagine playing a video game and you're like you've been spending, all right, let's take WoW for instance, it's an easy target, but you've been wandering around trying to get a party or somebody to roll with you for a while, and then all of a sudden somebody messages you and like, yeah, I'll tag along, and like you do adventures together and like have conversations and all that stuff, and things get, you know, like more involved later down the road, and then like you know, like I don't know how you would find out, but like I would imagine like it runs the course of its programming, or it starts to like, you know, I don't know, like I can just imagine like the kind of creepiness that could go on, like, you know, where you just don't know, like that person might just be some programming or an artificial intelligence inside some space. It's kind of creepy.
This is really insulting and pejorative, but they seem to be the lowest common denominator of human individual who does nothing but parrot whatever they see all the time. And again, this is just one tiny sample of a bot network.
It's not the idea itself, like that there's an AI that can talk to you. That's not really what I mean. It's like if you are in a social setting Like I said, let's take WoW for instance, and you find out that like the guy or girl you've been running around with is not real. Like they're absolutely not. Like property of Blizzard Incorporated. You know, I would imagine that would fuck some people up. Or they'd be like, yeah, that's cool. You know, like they're more reliable than most of the fucking human motherfuckers I try to get a party going with. I've done full quests with this guy, and he never complained one bit. Hmm?
Drives what I've now begun to suspect is the majority of all Twitter traffic, interaction, and usage. Now, for anyone doubting the authenticity or likelihood of these propaganda networks existing, I'd like to reference work done by Bellingcat in 2019. Writer Benjamin Strick, while analyzing an independence group out of Indonesia, uncovered a propaganda network related to the West Papuan freedom movement. This propaganda network expanded from Twitter to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram with very specific hashtags and was uncovered with similar tools. Another example, in 2022, outlined by the European Digital Media Observatory, a pro-Russian Twitter botnet was uncovered, which spread propaganda with regards to the war in Ukraine, once again determined with similar tools and methodology. This network was primarily focused on European Union countries as well as the UK and Switzerland. The campaign's architect was never identified, but suffice to say the existence of bot-driven social media propaganda networks isn't new or even uncommon. Funnily enough, Twitter knows who the bots are. During the experiments that we ran to gather all of this data, I got rate limited twice on 2 separate accounts. I was repeatedly forced to do authenticity verifications or the CAPTCHA stuff or the bot things, right, to make sure that I'm human. And it was very clear that Twitter is able to identify who is real and who isn't with far greater accuracy than they ever acknowledged or used for actual moderation. I can't say why that is, I have no idea, or what their specific thought process might have been, but I can tell you that the bot network I originally discovered through a social experiment is far larger than anything I previously expected, with much more profound implications. Crypto is completely overrun with botted accounts that are spun up periodically to shill exit scams and rug pulls. Indian politics has something going on with large amounts of bot traffic. We didn't really analyze that though. Portions of the adult content network are custom built to distribute phishing links and malware, but the most interesting one by far is the Phantom Blue Wave political propaganda network that is spinning back up right now as we speak, blatantly inflating metrics for specific DNC politicians while pushing the narrative that everyone hates the evil.
Yeah, that's right, because we're about we're at the halfway point already. Elections are next year, so yeah, of course it would be spinning up right now.
And a grassroots movement is about to sweep across the nation in a way it never has before, and yet they're consistently wrong. It's funny to me that pollsters and predictive analysts were so categorically incorrect in 2016 and in 2020, but here we go again. Are they wrong because of things like this? Are they wrong because of sheer incompetence? I don't know. But when media is left holding the bag and wondering how on earth did we get it all so bad, the question, are they wrong because of an advanced echo chamber integrated botnet that they desperately wanted to believe and did? Or is it something else? Honestly, I'm not sure, and I'm certainly not done with the topic yet, but that's today's video. For everyone out there supporting the DNC in this coming presidential race, just be aware that a lot of what you are seeing and are about to see, especially on social media, is fake. It comes from a dedicated bot network supporting the president, the vice president, and a few additional figureheads, both former and current, with enormous amounts of manufactured interest. That's it. If you want to support, please check out the links down below. Merch, social media, the video sponsor, of course, as well as a few more items. In particular, locals and Patreon for a monthly subscription that makes it possible to do more projects like this, because these are, of course, resource intensive and money intensive. There's a whole team of people that worked on this with me, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. If you want to support, again, links down below. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.
Thank you very much, sir. All right. So we will, let's see. Yeah, there.